do you explain me? Evolution, baby!
When I first approached this movie, I was very scared about doing a CG main character.
Sorry I frightened the shit out of you.
Now that I've gone through most of it, I'm 85% done with the animation. I didn't know how scared I should be.
Right from the very, very start, he was just an actor, just another guy on a road trip with Simon and Nick. He wasn't an animated character. We didn't look at him like an animated character. We looked at him as just another personality.
He had to be totally seamless and believable as a character within the film.
Yo, fuck nuts! It's probing time.
Greg was really nice to work with in that sense, because he is more of an independent filmmaker. He doesn't have an agenda to show a technical feat that we've accomplished or to sell a gimmick. He really is more about just telling the story and making sure that Paul is as strong a character as possible.
He is this living, breathing character, and we have to figure out how he reacts in every environment. Yeah. Just like Simon and Nick act differently in every environment, and he has to behave the same way or he just doesn't come across as believable.
So all of those discussions happened 2 years ago, essentially, and that was where I came in. Then we just set out to do a test, or a series of tests, to prove that the techniques we were choosing would actually work. And we very quickly kind of identified a few key areas that presented challenges for the animators in delivering a believable, engaging, and appealing performance.
We rigged up an RV. Simon and Nick were there in character, in costume, seeing how they came across and how they worked. We used that as a springboard to really push the film, get people interested in making the film, to help establish what kind of voice, what kind of actor people would need to play Paul.
I think initially he was a little more cantankerous and grumpy.
Yeah.
And once they cast Seth, he got that charm that Seth comes across with, I think he says. And so the character transformed a little bit from how he was read on the script to what he became with Seth's voice. And then when we got into animating, he changed again.
When Simon first pitched the movie to me, he really said he wanted it to not be super slick. He wanted it to feel like a road trip movie. That's, maybe even more like an indie film. And one of the main characters just happens to be this incredibly expensive special effect.
We've had a team of 200 to 250 people working here probably for a year now.
Again, so look into the camera. I mean, just the animation would be like, what, 50 people?
Am I speaking to you, the camera?
Do I look at the camera? 40 people?
No, we only had a crew of 26.
Oh, really?
Look at the camera or just above the camera?
I would say we've probably turned over about 300 staff.
Do you want to look in the camera or you?
Not all of them at the same time. Overall. About 120 at one was the highest peak we got at one moment.
But don't spoil it.
Sorry.
It was quite an international crew as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm from Greece.
I'm Polish.
I'm from Italy.
I'm from Sweden.
Lithuania.
I'm originally from Mexico.
So there's lots of different ideas coming in here and there.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting, some of the acting.
Sometimes our supervisor was saying to, hey guys, it looks so too Italian.
Yeah. Everything was Italian.
He's a very Italian guy.
It was Italian
Always.
We try to keep down the hands, because we speak too much with the hands in Italian.
It's actually a really nice crew, I have to say. It was.
When we started with him, we were like, okay, we're going to make him as realistic as possible. So we gave him imperfections and blemishes, which are realistic. But Greg said if he was a real actor, we would have put him through makeup and we would have removed some of those.
Oh, God, guys.
It sort of really made us go, wow, okay, this is more about just treating Paul like he's an actor.
Nice.
We attacked it from a few different directions. We did design a CG version of Paul that was not completely satisfying as a design. So we brought in the practical effects company that had this really talented sculptor who sculpted Paul out of clay, first miniature size until we got a rough design we thought was good. And then he did a life-size version. And because this guy was a real artist and had studied anatomy for a long time, he figured out ways to make this thing feel like it could exist.
I'm Will Fulser. I was a match mover on Paul, and I was also used as muscle reference on Paul as well.
Can we see your muscles?
Just a little Little flex of the guns, yeah. No, I think it was actually I was chosen because of the opposite, because Paul's a little bit scrawny, so I was great reference for that.
People don't necessarily know, context-wise, before the films come out, that he's intended to look like a classic alien. There was some criticism of his design because he looked typical. That, of course, is the point. He's meant to look typical. It's a line in the film.
Over the last 60 years, the human race has been drip-fed images of my face on lunchboxes and t-shirts and shit. It's in case our species do meet, you don't have a fucking spaz attack.
Well, I think initially what Nick and Simon wanted was the classic gray alien that you see in all the tabloid newspapers. But once we started designing the character, it was apparent that he needed to be appealing because he wasn't going to be on screen for 2 hours. He needed to be something you could actually look at. And a classic alien is a little generic and doesn't have a whole lot of personality.
I'm sorry. Just don't make me look fat, okay? Earth's gravity adds 10 pounds.
And when your eyes are that big, and you're trying to make it look real or believable, even tiny little moves can be way bigger. Like blinks became a big deal.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about creating a realistic piece of animation. It was interpreting it through this design and still making it feel like he's an appealing, interesting, likable kind of character.
Trying to direct an animated character feels kind of like giving an actor direction via Twitter from the other side of the globe.
Doesn't this thing go any faster?
I mean, you tell them something and then 3 months later you find out what it looks like. Or if you're lucky, maybe a couple of weeks later.
It's okay. You can trust me.
I don't know.
Just have a little faith, okay?
The stuff doesn't happen fast. It takes weeks and weeks to do a couple of seconds worth of film. And you put your heart and soul into it, and you don't do it unless you think it looks absolutely great. So of course it sucks when it gets cut, but at the same time, you also have to take a big picture and be like, well, I just want the film to look really good. I'm, busting my butt to make this film look good, so whatever it takes to make the film look good.
Senior animator.
Character animator.
I'm one of the animators.
I'm an animator.
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 An animator.
I think you need a pretty tough skin to be an animator. Every day, you're showing your work to your colleagues, to the director, to your supervisor, and you're taking notes, criticisms over what you're doing. And almost every day, we'd see great work, see fantastic versions of or interpretations of shots.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're not right for the cut, if they're not right for the scene, you've got to go back and do it again.
I'm a digital compositor, effects artist,
Compositor.
Lighting team, compositor.
Paint roto artist.
Compositor.
Lighting TD.
Compositor.
Visual effects TD. Compositor.
2D roto paint
Compositor.
effects TD.
We put it on the film. If we've done our job well, nobody will notice the fact he's CG. They'll just be reading his expression and listening to his dialogue and laughing at his jokes. He's a very funny guy.
You're really getting the hang of this.
Thanks, Dick Milk.
The sort of insane level of detail that double negative, the CGI animators get into, that kind of blows my mind because they do this on their own initiative, a lot of it. I mean, we talk about it and talk about it. There's stuff you would just never think to do.
During the later stages of the film, when we're sort of into lighting the shots, it's part of my responsibility to keep checking from sequence to sequence and from shot to shot to ensure that there's not only consistency in the lighting, but sort of consistency in things like Paul's skin colour, how reflective his skin is, and even down to things like the reflections in his eyes. They have to be consistent from shot to shot.
As somebody who's worked in animation and visual effects for a long time, it's great to work with a director that really didn't care what we used, what tools were at our disposal. You just wanted it to look right.
We finished the film. We went to the editing room. We literally started taking videotape of Seth's head from the stuff we'd done in pre-production and cutting it into the movie, just like, the floating genie from Pee-wee's Playhouse. And, it was strange because not only was he not there, and not only was Seth Rogen dressed like, in a motion capture suit, which was sort of like a bike messenger, it didn't really match. I mean, the performance, he was acting to slightly, to a different energy in those scenes.
Well, I think because Greg and Chris come from a traditional live action background and they craft these movies down to the last second, they hone it for the performance. And when they get Paul in there, they have to edit it differently in order to make his performance work. Or they have to go get Seth to ADR a new piece of dialogue to make it funnier.
One of the things that's great about Seth's voice and his acting ability is you just like him. He can be a real jerk. He can say something that should make you really offended and think, God, what a dick. But you just like him anyways.
How come I can understand you? Are you using some sort of neural language router?
Actually, I'm speaking English, you fucking idiot.
We went back to Seth and we started ADR with him again. Now he could act versus what we had cut. And it was sort of a back and forth. We'd take some of what he had done and we'd recut the scene and we'd go back and recut the scene. And meanwhile, the animators would use that as reference for animation.
Oh, fuck.
At the time, we're like, another sequence to go back to. But it was actually really good because the first version we had, he was a lot softer, a lot more subtle, and didn't have as much impact. While second time around, we had his personality, we knew what he should be like. When he was energized, he acted a certain way, and straight from the get-go, it was so much stronger the second time around.
What? Things that I've consistently heard from other filmmakers now that I've talked to who've done stuff like this before is they'll build an animatronic puppet and shoot it and then replace it with CG later, which we ended up doing a certain amount of.
Oh, Boomer, it's forbidden.
Hey, Clive.
Hey,
Clive!
Whenever you have a CG character interacting with a real character, you've got issues of all the cloth and all that kind of stuff. So
anything with contact.
Yeah, any contact. So if you film someone where they've just got their arms like this, obviously you haven't got anything pressing down on their skin or anything ruffling or pressing against their clothes. So once you put that in, you've got to go and add that in afterwards in 2D or use some kind of cloth dynamics in 3D to strategically replicate that kind of thing.
Give me the alien!
Oh, fuck, watch
Some of the shots have Tanner, the boy, jumping onto Zoil's back, and some of them have nothing there at all. It's just Zoil interacting, and some of them have the stunt puppet. So there's a whole mix. Every shot is unique, and they all have their own challenges. Some of those initial ones with Paul on the back were very difficult because what Zoil was doing with his hands was very specific, and we had to make sure that Paul fit in there. There wasn't a lot of leeway for us, and that kind of confined what we could do in performance. So it was like doing limbo, just trying not to touch the bar, and yet doing as much as we could in there, making it dance.
And that's the thing about effects in general is that you're reinventing the wheel each time. You're starting from scratch. You're looking at sort of the sets of problems and trying to figure out how to solve them.
Get the fuck out of here, really?
The challenging part of this was Nick actually strangling Paul, and that was quite difficult.
He strangled a puppet thing, right?
Yeah,
Green puppet.
yeah. And then we had to replace that with Paul and a lot of paintwork, I'm sure, which is not our remit, but
turned out great though. It's really.
It looks, yeah, I saw it the other day again, and it looks really, really strong actually, and it's really, really funny.
Thank you. He looks too obvious. There's a reason for that,
We
Clive.
had that great moment on set where we were expecting to just strangle him, and clearly Nick just got inspired and came in once with a karate kick to Paul's head.
I did not have a buzzer! Don't do it again!
We all sort of shivered at the same time as we laughed because, oh man, now we have to match essentially to this puppet that they're strangling and kicking around, and keep it alive. It can't just be like a sack of potatoes, which is what that puppet was behaving like.
You'd also be surprised at how much problems we had with that pistachio nuts.
That's right, the pistachio.
Yeah, digital pistachios aren't easy, you know. Remember
Yeah.
that one next time you're making a visual effects film.
What are you, my grandma?
The animation trickled in very slowly over the course of 8 or 9 months. And it was just a strange kind of process of watching the movie materialize in slow motion.
It's about each person putting in their little bit of magic and building this wonderful creation that hopefully will last on screen for a long time and give people a lot of enjoyment.
Come on, man. This is special. Paul. Oh.
I think he's probably real.
I think he's probably out there somewhere, actually.
Paul exists.
We believe. Been staring at him for so long. If he's not real, I'm losing a bit of perspective on what we're doing.
You know what? We're all tired.
I do believe in Paul. I take him out for drinks after work.
I would go for a drink with Paul.
That'd be really good fun.
We should be best buds.
He drink everyone under the table, to be honest.
He seems like one of the lads.
He's a bad boy.
Be a lot of fun.
Totally.
He's awesome. He seems to be a really cool chap, actually.
He's a good man. You just want to have a laugh and a joke with Paul.
Don't let his head get any bigger. Yeah.
What?
I think being a nerd definitely helped. And it was fun. It was really good.
How did you do that?
Evolution, baby.